This proves I'm natty, right? These
Yes.
numbers?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Coach Greg and Jesse James and Brandon Walsh took a steroid test. Or did they? I watched a video of which the doctor said there's no way he could have taken anything. But is that true? Did the doctor after go over all the blood work? Well, Jesse James and Brandon Walsh sent me their blood work to go over it. I looked at the blood work and you will not believe what you're going to see in the blood work. Doctor said, oh, 100% natural, has to be. Did they not look at these results? They did not examine exactly what it said. Well, in today's video, gonna expose the truth. Is it actually true? There's no way they're on PDs? Or did the doctor leave something out? Doctor left something out. Stay tuned and find out. And so in case you're wondering, before I got the blood work, I thought both Jesse James and Brandon Walsh, both 100% natural. Made a video on Jesse James in the past, said he's natural. But is he in fact natural? Well, I've got the blood work, gonna go over it, but let's see what goes on in the video.
My name is Bonnie.
So we're gonna be drawing some blood today, huh?
Yes.
And so hopefully Derek gets the chance to do a video on this as well. I'd really like to see, does Derek agree or disagree with Coach Greg?
Who do you think has the higher testosterone?
Maybe him.
And so throughout the video, it seems to be a bit of a competition. Who will come out on top? Who has more testosterone? But in the end, who cares? It doesn't actually matter, especially total testosterone. What really matters is how much of that testosterone can you actually use? What good is having 1,000 nanograms per deciliter if it's all bound up by sex hormone binding globulin? You have a ton of testosterone, great, can't use any of it. Be like having 100 liters of gas in the garage, none of it is in your Lambo, and you can't start the engine. You need to be able to use the gas. Their testosterone is the gas your body wants to use.
Oh, that's not a big needle. That little thing there.
Are there thicker needles in that?
Oh, much thicker.
Oh, don't even. They say size doesn't matter. I think it does.
And trust me, size matters when you're looking at a needle. And just so you know, the lower the number, the thicker the needle. The largest needle I've ever used is a 15 gauge. Those of you who have used needles, would you want to jab yourself with a 15 gauge needle? But I had a hematoma, had to drain it. Wasn't pleasant, took out 50 mils of blood. Bad stuff, bad from the past. Dangers of doing injections. To the opposite extent, I've used as small as 31 gauge needles. So tiny you can hardly feel it go in. That's what she said. But seriously, it's so small, great for doing peptides, TB500, BPV157, so on. Not saying to inject anything. Obviously, don't inject anything without the advice of your doctor, and I am not a doctor.
Out of us two, who do you think has higher testosterone?
And so you can't actually tell by just looking who has more testosterone. You can't just say, oh, you have a lot of muscle, you probably have higher testosterone levels. And to the same extent, you can't look at someone's fingers and say, oh, because you have longer fingers or bigger feet or this and that that means you have more testosterone than someone else.
No.
No, this is for scientific research.
I would say you.
Oh!
A little bit. Maybe a little bit.
And just because you have lower testosterone levels doesn't mean you can't build muscle. In the end, Jesse James has significantly lower levels of testosterone than Brandon Walsh. But Jesse has more muscle. And so just because you don't have high test levels, don't think that it means you can't build muscle.
Bro, what do you think is more difficult, not having caffeine or not nutting for 5 days?
I've gone not nutting for 2 weeks.
That's a lot. No way.
And so what's harder, not nutting for 5 days or not having caffeine for 5 days? Well, that depends. If you're on a diet trying to get single-digit body fat, way harder to go without the caffeine. Trust me, I've dieted for bodybuilding competitions. Half the time, people who bodybuild, they can't even perform in the bedroom. No desire, no energy, erectile dysfunctions from not eating enough food. And so it's a clear win. But off-season, eating enough food, you're normal. Going to be a lot harder to go 5 days without it than having a coffee. Unless you're a caffeine addict. Or unless you're a sex addict.
Have a donut?
No, I'm trying to stay really lean.
And so remember this, Jesse is trying, as in putting in effort to trying to stay lean. Remember this.
The time has finally come. We're gonna finally know who has more testosterone. Ma'am, who has more testosterone?
I have no idea.
I do.
And so it's quite literally a 50-50 guess. There are no odds. There are no betting odds here. There's no way that you could think that one person has more testosterone than the other. They both look quite lean. They both train. They both have muscle. They're both young men in their 20s. You can't say, oh, this guy's going to be natural. This guy has longer hair, a tattoo, he's taller. Can't tell just by looking.
Underlyingly, a little piece of me is like, I kind of hope I have low test. That way I can just go on like some testosterone and get jacked.
And so Jesse James, being 100% transparent, is kind of hoping he has low testosterone levels. If he were really low, they could prescribe him HRT, and if that were the case, he most certainly would build a lot more muscle. And I have to agree with Jesse James here. Look at his physique. If he's on the lower end of the testosterone scale, on the lower end of the spectrum, and is still able to build us so much muscle, imagine what he could do with higher test levels. And yes, I've said earlier in the video that one person could have higher testosterone levels than someone else, and it doesn't mean they build more or less muscle. But if Jesse had very low testosterone levels and was able to increase them, he would in fact be able to build more muscle. Whether he does that through HRT, through improved quality of sleep, increasing his body fat percentage, eating more food. And so if Jesse James has his physique on lower testosterone levels, his potential to improve is that much more. In comparison, if he's already at 1,000 nanograms per deciliter, just a freak, off the charts, not very likely he's going to be able to increase it very much. Now, is it?
Your testosterone level?
800, no?
A little less than that.
So this proves I'm natty, right? These numbers?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
I have to love this. I mean, this is the second time I'm watching this, and I laughed my ass off. I was screaming and shouting. Allie was like, what just happened? I'm like, I just watched this doctor say, this proves you're natural. Proves it. One blood test checking out his testosterone levels. One. It's not a WADA certified test. It didn't test for tren, growth hormone, clenbuterol. Didn't test for any of that. It was a blood test done by the doctor. It reminds me of that video where I did a natty or not on a Korean singer who went to the doctor. His testosterone levels were through the roof, above the normal range. Doctor said, yeah, that means you're natural. Well, what? Doesn't prove anything. And just so you know, this is the current state of the blood work of Jesse James and Brandon Walsh. It's not a test from 5 years ago, 5 months ago, or 2 weeks ago. One could take a number of PDs, couple months before this, stop, get the blood work done, and pass. Not saying Jesse James did that. I already made a video saying I think he's natural. But one blood test from a doctor does not prove you are natural.
The woman was interrogating. She's like, you could be honest. Were you taking any SARMs at any point of your life? Were you on any steroids? What are you on? And I was like, nothing. I'm laughing my ass off.
So he says, no, because I do believe he hasn't. But the test doesn't prove this. And so playing devil's advocate, Jesse James could have been on SARM, steroids, and so on for an entire year, stopped for 3 months, done this test, and had probably the same results. Doesn't prove anything, but what it does do is prove he's not taking anything right now. Right now, he's natural. And if he was taking things in the past and stopped, we would have seen a decline in physique. We don't see that. So I do believe he's 100% natural.
So your testosterone also looks good, but if it's a competition, it does look better than Jesse's.
And so the entire competition on who had better blood work seemed to be centered around who would have the higher testosterone levels. Total testosterone. But in reality, it's the totality of the biomarkers that really matter. Jesse James is by a landslide much healthier overall than Brandon Walsh. If I had to trade blood works with Jesse James or Brandon Walsh, in a heartbeat, 100 out of 100 times, I'm switching with Jesse James. Significantly healthier, better. And it's not the fault of Brandon Walsh, it's his genetics.
I may not have not won the battle, but I will win the fight.
His cholesterol is way better than mine. I have super high cholesterol.
Yeah, but you know what? It's all good. I'm glad that we're both healthy.
Okay, and so by win the war, Jesse means, well, overall my blood work is way better, and it is. And notice how they glance over this really quick. Brandon Walsh says, well, you have lower cholesterol than me. My cholesterol is super high. And Jesse James says, it's all good. We're both really healthy. No, this couldn't be further from the truth. When I saw Brandon Walsh's blood work, I was extremely concerned. I spent hours researching it. I was scared at the numbers. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I was very worried. Jesse James, on the other hand, made me jealous. He was extremely healthy. However, I do think there are things he could work on. I think he is in fact limiting his gains. I think Jesse Gaines could in fact have a significant amount more muscle if he made these changes. And so Jesse James' total testosterone was 470 nanograms per deciliter. Perfectly normal, that's in the normal range. Most males, 250 to 1100, with 800 for most men, thinking that's awesome. I'm in the 700s with HRT, so Jesse James, no problem there. However, his free and bioavailable testosterone, the testosterone he can use, the ones that aren't bound up by proteins or are loosely bound by albumin, those were a lot lower into the bottom end of the normal reference range. Free testosterone 61, normal 46 to 224, and bioavailable 130 with the reference range of 110 to 575. As you can see, he's in the lower end of the reference range. And his SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin, 34, right in the normal range. And if he were taking HRT, I would expect that number to be lower. And his estradiol levels below 15, within the 10 to 40 normal range, and seeing he's on the lower end of testosterone makes sense that his estrogen is also on the lower end. But his luteinizing hormone is at 1.5 in the normal reference range, 1.5 to 9.3. He's rock bottom at the bottom of normal. And if you inject testosterone or steroids exogenously, your LH luteinizing hormone is going to go down. However, he is in the normal reference range. So it's possible he had done steroids in the past, and by coming off of them, it would have caused his LH to go down. You do a PCT, give yourself some time, get off the drugs, and it's going to go up. But I don't think that's what he did. What I do believe this is from, and I foreshadowed this in the past, is from trying to be lean, having low body fat levels, and being on a lower calorie diet. If he did put on more body fat, ate more calories, I do believe his LH levels would rise, and I think he would have more bioavailable testosterone to use. I think he could increase his test levels the way Marine did. I believe Jesse James has experienced this to a smaller degree, but to some degree as indicated in his blood work. So if I were him, I would add a few more calories and try to boost up his bioavailable testosterone. The rest of his blood work, amazing, clearly in excellent health. You can tell the guy both eats healthy and does cardio, lifts weights, is a fit individual, has no worries, no concerns. This is not the case for Brandon Walsh. Although he had higher testosterone levels, 717 nanograms per deciliter, that's great. And his free and bioavailable testosterone, 98 and 232, much higher, about double what Jesse's is. His overall blood work not near as healthy. His albumin score was 5.2, which is above the reference range. It was high. This could indicate liver or kidney stress, or potentially he was just dehydrated. I would certainly advise him to drink plenty of water, to eat a healthy, balanced diet, and to get tested again to see if it can be dropped into the normal reference range. His glucose score, 108, that is above the healthy reference range. This could indicate he may be potentially pre-diabetic. Or was he fasted? Did he have breakfast and then go get tested? I'd want to see him do this test again, eating a healthy, balanced diet, all 4 food groups, plenty of fruit and vegetables and fiber, healthy fats. Get tested again, and please get that score below 100. He's a young guy in his 20s who works out, is lean, shouldn't have numbers that look like this. But it gets worse from here, and this is what really concerned me. His LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, is super high. Not a bit high. Way out of the reference range. Optimal is anywhere under 100. Under 100, you're good. Jesse was 67. I'm jealous. Jesse is so healthy. Brandon's score, 290. Anything over 130, that's considered very high. So if he had scored 190, that would be bad. It would be very high. Above 130 is very high. Jesse James is 67. Brandon's is 290. Soon as I saw that number, started researching, worried. And of course, that's not the only cholesterol score that stuck out to me. The total cholesterol, that's obviously going to be high. When your LDL is that high, can't help but being high. His was 374, with high being anything over 200. Very high. However, the good news is he does have the proper amount of HDL, the good cholesterol. And typically when you take PDs like testosterone or other steroids, it's the HDL that goes down the most. Most people who are taking high doses of HRT or abusing PDs are going to have very, very low HDL scores. That was a problem I had when I was taking testosterone. My LDL, not bad, never, not even close to half as bad as Brandon's, but my HDL much lower. And so the HDL-LDL ratio, which is an important score, Brandon comes out with being 5.4. It's not good, above 5, not good, bad. But it could be a lot worse. If Brandon were to ever take steroids and lower his HDL, he would have a horrendous cholesterol score. So for Brandon, he should never, ever touch performance-enhancing drugs. Would be a horrible choice for him because of his genetics. And so I looked up, research said, what could this potentially be? What I came to the conclusion, most likely my concern would be this. Does he have familial hypercholesterolemia? To find out whether you do or not, you have to get tested. Does it run in your family history? And if you do, you want to take medication for this. I asked Jesse, what did the doctor say? They said it runs in his family, high cholesterol, so nothing you can really do. He's got to eat healthy and exercise, but he's already doing that. Yeah, he might be skipping a meal or two, but he's not a guy that's on a super unhealthy diet. And so I'm not his doctor. I don't know what to tell him, but I would be concerned and I would get checked again. There are certain medications that can help lower your LDL. Cholesterol meds, very common, and perhaps he just chose the wrong parents. It's not his fault that he has elevated cholesterol levels, but he's certainly being smart about it. He's not abusing PDs. He's natural. He's making the smart scientific choice. Ask your doctor, what can I do about this cholesterol? Please tell me, what does the science say? What does the research say? You have one life to live on this earth. Get your blood work done, eat healthy, do cardio, and live longer and healthier than last time. Ending it here. GregDoucette.com for coaching, Greg Doucette IB Pro. The bloops are over there. Harder than last time supplements, including the Turkesterone. You can get those. Click the link in the description. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment for the algorithm, and until next time, buy my freaking cookbook. I am out. What's the point? I'll wait.